Those audience questions do have to be addressed to both candidates. You're not allowed to ask a question just directed to one candidate. Tom will be our timer here this evening, and he will hold up a green sign when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red sign will indicate that your 2-minute allotted time is up. So with that, we will begin with candidate introductions. The 3 candidates for the Republican primary for Minnesota State Senate District 29 are Rachel Davis, Michael Holmstrom Jr., and Bradley Kurtz. Rachel could not be with us this evening. She indicated she had a health issue. You each have 2 minutes to share who you are and why you're running to represent the citizens of Minnesota Senate District 29. The first response was chosen by random order, and we will begin with Michael. So Michael, please proceed with your introduction.
Hello, everyone. I apologize for not looking so spiffy. I just came off of Franklin Township knocking on doors. I didn't want to take the time to go home and put on a suit, so this is how I showed up. My name is Michael Holmstrom. I'm running for Minnesota Senate for very simple reasons. I'm a business owner. I understand what overburdening taxes and regulations do to families and businesses in this state. It's frustrating that state agencies and Governor Tim Walz are ignoring the fraud problem that's affecting our businesses and affecting the state programs and doing nothing about it. When I'm your senator, that is going to change. I'm also the father of a young family. I want to send my kids to public school without them being taught to hate our country. As a senator, I'll stand up for parental rights, school choice, and protecting girls in sports. We also need a fighter who's willing to stand up for the America First principles that overwhelmingly won the voters in Wright County last year. We need to repeal and pull back the sanctuary state policies and clean up our voter rolls. These are my priorities, but what's more important are the priorities of the Wright County residents. When I started this campaign, a resident told me a story about Bruce. A few years ago, a precinct from Meeker County was added into this district. And Bruce took the time to drive out there and meet with every single resident in person at their homes, knocking on their doors. He did that because he wanted to introduce himself as their senator and let them know that he cared about what they thought. That's what servant leadership looks like. Bruce's example is exactly what we should expect from our next senator. Promising to be that person is easy. What's hard is the work of going out and meeting the people in every corner of this district. I'm the only candidate doing that work. I have met with people in their homes in every township and every city in this district over the last 3 weeks, and will continue to do so well beyond this election. I look forward to meeting all of you tonight, and I welcome a strong discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Bradley, your introduction.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Brad Kurtz, and I just want to first give my condolences to the Anderson family for his untimely death. And also, now I just want to thank you, the Delano community, and for hosting this event. It's important for us to come out here and talk and speak to each other and have civil discourse. Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about me. I spent 13 years, I grew up in South Minneapolis, spent 13 years in the Air Force after graduating from high school, and that's where I met my wife of 18 years, or I guess almost 18 years. And I have 2 kids, 13 and 16, who are currently in the Buffalo public school system. During my 13 years of service, I had 6 deployments. I had 4 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, and 1 to Western Europe. During that time, I learned how to talk to people, how to respect people, how to communicate with different groups, and how to get things done that, again, across cultural divides. I will continue to do that during my service to the community, and I have been out in the community, thank you, for knocking on doors and bringing the community. I did dress like this, but I did get up about 5 this morning to work my full-time job before getting here, and so I thought it was going to be respectful to dress appropriately. So with that, some of my goals in this is going to be economic freedom. We do have a housing crisis for affordable homes within the state of Minnesota. We have an overbearing medical cost system, and we need some economic freedom. So thank you.
All right, thank you. We will now start with the prepared questions. Question number 1 will be addressed to first Bradley, and then Michael, you'll have a chance to respond, and we will alternate who goes first. Question 1 is, why are you running for this Senate position?
So, why am I running? So I'm running to One, I believe in service before self. It's one of the attributes that stuck with me. I might have mocked it a little bit in the Air Force, but it stuck with me throughout time. And I've continued to do that as I volunteer consistently inside the community. I do it about once a week on my day off, and then I've also gone up to Bemidji during that time frame. So I want to continue to serve, and I've seen and I've heard from people from the community that want change and want the continued growth, and they want economic prosperity. And so I believe I can do that. As a small business owner myself, I do understand that there is overregulation and processes that can be there. We also need fiscal responsibility within our areas because we do have a looming $6 billion deficit that we can fix because that's going to be in the 27-28 fiscal year. So I do believe I have a lot to bring to the table, and that is why I'm running, to serve the people and not just myself. Thank you.
Thank you again for asking the question. The reason, again, is simple. I'm a father, I'm a business owner, and I'm a conservative who's been fighting this battle for a long time. I knew Bruce well. He was a friend. When this happened, we all had a shock, and then we realized we have to find somebody who can fill those shoes. And while nobody can fill them perfectly, it's important that whoever does tries. So I want to serve this community the way that Bruce served this community. That's why I'm here. I think that service is the most important aspect of Bruce's legacy. When you talk to people at doors, again, hundreds of people, they all remembered Bruce fondly. I've yet to hear one person have a bad story about the guy, and it's because he showed up and he cared about the people of Wright County. That's why I'm showing up to the doors. Again, every single township, every single city, I've had these conversations. I'm going to continue to, because it's important that whoever gets this seat cares more about the people of Wright County and their values than they care about whatever they're bringing to the table. Again, I have the experience of being a business owner. I have the fight of being a father who has had to fight through the school system, had to fight through laws to protect my children. I'm going to continue to bring that fight to the table, but do so on behalf of Wright County residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 2, and this one, Michael, you'll be first. How do you plan to improve political discourse and stop the degradation of respect and statesmanship between parties and within parties?
Yeah, I think this is best shown over the fraud debate in the last year. As many people in this room know, Republicans created the fraud committee, and we attempted to create an independent inspector general to look after and find fraud. We were mocked on the floor of the Capitol and laughed at while they voted it down. That's a real problem. We have a communication issue down in St. Paul. I think that just like we deal with problems within our own family, we need to go down there and we need to have an open heart but a firm mind. So I'm going to go down there and I'm going to meet all of the people on the other side of the aisle, and they're all going to recognize that I do care about them. I care about their families, and that the values that we're bringing from Wright County are values that are there to support them. Now, we will firmly defend our positions, but there doesn't need to be mudslinging down there. There needs to be good conversations behind the scenes and on the floor of the Capitol to really promote and foster that positive relationship. You saw this best with Tim Walz in his casserole days. I know that many. Bruce would bring bagels out to staff and was loved for it. It's building relationships like that. It's focusing on people over politics behind the scenes. And then when it comes time for the politics, just remaining firm, but explaining our positions, because we're right. Thank you.
So first, it's going to start by just sitting down, having discussions, and breaking bread. And I have some real-world experience in this. On my last deployment to Romania, I was a security liaison between the U.S. Embassy, the Romanian government, and the the Romanian base that we were trying to establish a base on in northern Romania. This relationship we built took time as there was cultural divides, so I could reach across and talk to them, and they had neutral positions between us and Russia, and we had to go through that. And how it originally started is, unfortunately, it took me about 3 weeks of just sitting down every day having coffee with this gentleman. And then after that, we finally broke a little bit more. We went out to lunch. We grew that relationship. Eventually went to an MMA fight out there. I thought there was going to be food. There wasn't. I was a little hungry. But followed by that, we ended up accomplished our mission. We were able to get real discussion. We were able to make our plan. We built our base defense plan based on that, and I helped author that. And what happened during that time is we were able to protect U.S. assets. We were able to secure the U.S. assets on that base. And furthermore, we were able to identify potential Russian agents within the northern Romanian territories.
Thank you. Our next question, there have been several high-profile fraud cases in recent years in Minnesota involving taxpayer dollars. What specifically will you do to establish accountability in state government? Bradley, you were first on that question.
Yeah. Oh, okay, can't really find my notes, so we'll just let it rip. All right. So first, we need to have accountability. And unfortunately, we have had, about $1 billion in fraud recently. We need to sit down. We need to have stiffer penalties. We need to audit all these agencies. We need to bring in the Inspector General to make sure they have the appropriate power to look at these different agencies. Furthermore, what needs to happen is, even before we get to that point, we need to step back and get where the laws and legislations are being made to make sure these protections are in place beforehand. If we can't have these protections ahead of time, these frauds will continue to happen. We can't keep finding it on the back end. And this is going to become from like data analytics and real-time world improvements from like IT departments. And I think anyone in government will understand that the IT programs sometimes are unfortunately lacking. And so we need to have a focus there, and they continue to accomplish this. We need stiffer penalties. We need to have clawback, which means we need to take that money back that have been committed fraud. And that's where we stand on that. Thank you.
Yeah, the solution is actually simple. I could rattle off 15 things that we could do, but the reality is we need to, on day one, put forward a bill to get the Inspector General. The harsh reality is the guardrails exist. No one's watching the money. The administration is failing to protect your taxpayer dollars. They need to be held accountable. That's why we want the Inspector General. That's why we need to have a state auditor that does their job. And that's why we have the Fraud and Oversight Committee in the legislature, in the House. That needs to be duplicated in the Senate. We need to fight this head on and force the administration to actually protect our dollars. It's not a failure of regulation, it's a failure of enforcement. The laws are on the books, no one's watching the money. It's time we start doing that.
Thank you. Next question. How would you assist small businesses with the growing burden of state regulations in Minnesota? Some recent examples from recent sessions include a near total ban on PFAS, earned sick and safe time, mandatory retirement accounts, and paid family medical leave.
Yeah, paid family medical leave, sick and safe need to be ended tomorrow. Those are ridiculous programs. I cannot hire more employees in my businesses right now because it doesn't make sense. There's no way we can afford them. So my current employees have burnout. We have no way of solving the problem, and the answer is that we're open less. That is not an acceptable way to run your businesses. Anybody here who's ever signed the front of a paycheck knows that those programs we take care of our employees. My employees, when they need time off, they get it. I'll drive up there and work the store myself. My wife will do it. Our kids will go do it. It is a matter of allowing business owners to regulate themselves. It is insane to say that the government has to decide that you can have 20 weeks off without really any questions asked, and it's asking for double dipping. So those programs have to go tomorrow, and we need to really look at a lot of the regulation we're putting down on our small businesses. It's not acceptable. There's new independent contractor rules coming out. It's going to really hurt. We really have to start to roll that back, or small businesses are going to leave, and so many already have. With AI and the technology age the way it is, we do not have to run a lot of our businesses out of Minnesota. We can run them out of South Dakota. And if we keep pushing these policies, a lot of our businesses are going to go, why would we stay here? And they're 100% right. We need to incentivize businesses to be here and to invest in our communities so we can have stronger communities. That's just the way it is. Thank you.
Well, the reality is I generally agree with that, because as a small business owner, I do feel that, and we currently have overregulation, and the problem is with overregulation, it kills innovation. And when we have all these other things that are mandated on us, it does cost the business money, and we can't grow, and we can't bring new innovation and jobs to the community. It is easier to go out of state. I could go to Wisconsin right now and pay half the prices, but I choose to be here because I do believe in Minnesota. And we need to get those other communities or those other businesses to come back here also, because when we lose those businesses, it is hard to get them back, and we need to keep them while they're here. And that is going with hopefully getting some tax relief for them. I know Governor Walz threw it out there during the tariffs, and so maybe we can convince him to do that, and we can have some bipartisan relationship there. I haven't heard anything what he said after that, but this is what we need to do. We need to lower taxes. We need to encourage people and innovation, and that's how we will grow the economy, is through small businesses. As 2/3 of new jobs come from small businesses, but if we overregulate them, those jobs aren't going to come.
Thank you. Our last question that we have prepared, and we do have a good number of audience questions. Next question is, what do you see as the largest infrastructure challenges facing the district, specifically for transportation and broadband issues in growing communities? And what will you do to mitigate those issues for businesses and citizens? Bradley?
So for infrastructure and things like that, like I believe I just read on the Wright County, it was from 2017, so it might be a little outdated, their slideshow, but it sounds like we're about 300 miles behind on road repairs, which equals about $1.5 billion. The reality is, just for simple road improvements to get up to safety standards, it costs $1.7 million per mile. And to go from a 2-lane to a 5-lane, it costs $5 million per mile. So we need to figure out ways to get money to them appropriately, and I think the state across the board, I saw almost $17 billion behind. We need to find innovative ways to fund the infrastructure, and one way that we could do it and possibly do it is similar to like the Vikings tax bill. While we use scratch tickets and poll tabs to help fund that, and there's no reason we can't do that as long as we're transparent, it's fully out there, and we know exactly where that money is going, and it's going to the correct places at that time. And for broadband, small businesses do need broadband. They need internet, and we need to also fund that so we can keep rural communities thriving, and our children need, we need internet for their education. How we do that is we might have to actually use some tax money to get it out there, because for a lot of these companies, it doesn't make sense for them to pay for it because it costs significant amounts of money just to get into small towns. We need to incentivize that, and we make sure those workers that are working on it, they are coming from the local area, so that money is staying within our area.
Sure, so we'll start with transportation. This week I was actually invited to the I-94 GAP project to do a tour of their paving. What we learned is that it's not efficient how we're doing our roads. We are doing a lot of patchwork throughout the county, throughout the state. We need to take a step back and allow MnDOT and allow our own planning and zoning in Wright County to clearly make a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan to get these roads up to steam, and make sure that we're not just throwing patches over problems, kicking the can down the road for another 2 years. Broadband is interesting. So in the last 10, 20 years, many of you know, our cities, our counties, the state and federal government has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars in Wright County trying to move broadband. It is time to stop. We do not need to invest in digging out ditches and going under roads for broadband. We have satellite. Elon Musk is putting more in the sky every single day. That is, to get to the most rural areas of the county, we do not need to spend $1 million to get 5 or 50 people broadband. That does not make sense. It is not cost effective. As far as taxpayer funding for fixing the roads, the idea of, after a 40% increase in the state budget over the last 5 years, to add new taxes for a service that the government is fundamentally supposed to do is insane. It is time to cut ridiculous state programs and put that money back into investments like infrastructure and pull it out of a myriad of ridiculous programs. It is time to stop saying, let's create new taxes. We need to elect somebody who recognizes that we are already overtaxed. 40% in 5 years is insane. It is time to roll it back and stop new taxes. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Like I mentioned, with that, we will move into the audience questions. Because we went through that pretty quickly, we do have time for some additional questions, so we'll try and get to as many of these as we can. Some of them were a little bit duplicative of the questions we had already asked. So some of them we did set aside because they were essentially the same questions we had asked already. And so we'll start with that. So again, in the interest of everyone's time, we're going to try and move through these quickly. We will answer the questions here from the desk. A few reminders. The question, it does have to be a question, so we'll try and form these in a question if they're more of a statement. And then we will make sure that all questions are asked to both candidates, as I mentioned before, and not directed to one candidate. We won't allow any personal attacks, and I don't see any of the questions that have been asked, and nothing related to any personal trait of any candidate. They are specific to state governance items and policies. So with that, we will start with this question, which is, our next senator should have a track record of serving the community they plan to represent. What has been your involvement in the district? And based on that, Michael, you will be first on that question.
Yeah, so I grew up in a family that put volunteerism above most other things. Unfortunately, my parents had problems, so I grew up with my grandmother. And we started by volunteering at the Humane Society. We moved into pro-life volunteering and volunteering through our churches. At the age of 12, I started really hitting the pro-life stuff hard. I got, at 14, a leadership position within my youth leadership team at my church. That evolved into myself and a couple of my friends creating a non-denominational independent youth organization that served 50 to 100 kids a week in parents' homes and basements. I then offshot that into a volunteer organization called Teen Serve, where we taught those students how to serve the community through the food shelf, through Love Inc., through multiple organizations, even the city cleaning up trash. That was really important. We then brought them out into the nation. We went on 2 mission trips across the country and led kids doing that at 18 and 19. I then moved to St. Cloud. I got really involved into pro-life politics. That's where I met my wife, actually, through the March for Life in D.C. I marched with 500,000 of my best friends to the Capitol and up to the Supreme Court to defend life. We came back here. I've been involved in Wright County Republicans for 10, 13 years. And I now lead the Knights of Columbus in Buffalo as the chair. I've served on that board for 4 years now. I've been a member of the Knights for 10. I can't name all the organizations I've helped with. I've got over 10 years of volunteering at church, doing catechism. I believe in service to the community. This is really where your heart should come from in these positions, and this is obviously where Bruce started out as well. So that is a small snapshot of my volunteer history. I'd love to talk to any one of you more about it afterwards. Thank you.
So I also volunteered quite a bit during my high school years. We went on mission trips through my church, and then followed that during my service in the military, where my first 2 years were out in F.E. Warren, where I was a big brother, big sister, well, I guess big brother, but to another young gentleman. And then we also consistently went up to Denver to help feed the homeless and work in the homeless shelters up there on a consistent basis. We did it probably like 2 or 3 times a year because of work schedule and conflicts. Followed that, when I went down to Georgia, I got involved with the Special Olympics, and we would help out with their programming a couple times a year when we weren't deployed. And then in Germany, we also helped bring in a local orphanage that needed during Christmas time for just fun games and bring Christmas presents and bowling on base. They got to eat our food because it's a little bit different than German food, and they're always pretty excited. That we continued to serve our community after the military, and especially since we've gotten the food truck, we have been able and blessed to be able to help feed during last Christmas. About, I think it was 250 to 300. We were projected 500, but it just didn't happen, to a homeless women's battery shelter out in Plymouth. And then I have been serving for about 15 months. I've been working with Rock City Boxing with people with Parkinson's and helping just get their mobility, their voice, and get them moving around on a weekly basis or almost weekly basis. And then this last time when the storms hit up in Bemidji, we canceled all of our events. We paid out of pocket about $3,500 to go up to Bemidji to make sure the people that were affected by the storm could have a hot meal, because most of their meals by that time or the fridges were going bad and the food was going bad and didn't have any food. So I also believe that service for yourself is a thing that you continue to do throughout your life.
Thank you. This one's going to be, I know we said one question, but I have kind of a 2-part question here because they're kind of directly related. One of them says, and I'm going to combine them, how long and why are you a Republican? And then the second part is there any point of the Republican platform where you part company with the party. So Bradley, you were first on that question.
Okay. So I believe I've been a Republican most of my life. You know, I went to the military where, generally speaking, you're supposed to be nonpartisan and you're not supposed to really speak about it. But you know, you can talk politics, and I've been very affected by different programs and different administrations, negatively and positively. And so I've been a Republican since my younger days. I have consistently done that. Where do I part with the Republican Party? Oh man. I wish we had like a checkpoint list of what I could say. So I guess I'll be honest, where I do part, and some people are gonna get mad at me for this is okay. I believe in prison reform, and why I say that is, one, we spend a lot of money on the prison system. I don't think it should be private. I think that incentivizes people keeping in there. I also believe that we should be reforming these people so they can get back into the community and be prosperous in the community. If they keep going back, it just costs us more money consistently. And how I would love to do this is for non-violent first-time offenders, so nothing crazy, that when they come out, they do have a felony on their record, but it doesn't show to the public unless they do another second offense. This will allow them to be able to get a job, because you can't get a job as a felon. This will allow them to get a housing, and hopefully this means they will not reoffend and they can get back there. Because the reality is most of us make mistakes, and make mistakes that would get us put in there if we were caught at that time. Because sometimes a simple mistake of just peeing out inside when you're maybe intoxicated when you're 21, that could lead you to prison time, because depending on who was around and who caught you. And so these are the type of things I would like to see reform on, and I do break from the Republican Party.
I've been a Republican since I was old enough to know what a Republican was. I grew up watching Fox News, and I'll tell you, the real reason I am a Republican is pro-life politics. That's what brought me to the movement. Republicans have been stalwart on this forever. It is the most important and most fundamental right in our society. It's the core of my Republican values. That being said, there is a checklist that you can go down. It's called the Republican Party platform. The Republican Party of Minnesota has a platform. It's not very long. It's about a page and a half, edited down, and it's very easy to go down there. Prison reform is not on that platform. So it's very valuable to know when you're running in a Republican primary what the platform is. I have been part of shaping that platform. I've been to the state conventions, I've been to county conventions. We are a party of the people. Everyone can go in and suggest edits to the platform and reform it to the way that they choose to. I've been part of those specifically speaking in medical freedom. We just added that to the platform a few years back. It's incredibly important. So there's nothing I disagree with on the platform, and if there was, I would have gone through the process to help change it. The Republican Party platform is strong and is ready. Now, the one thing I will disagree with on the national platform is they made the pro-life issue weak on the national platform. That needs to be changed back. We need to be proud of our values as Republicans. Now, again, I'm running for the Republican primary. I would hope that everyone running has read the platform, and if you haven't, I would encourage you to do so, and everyone in the stands as well. Go on the state party website. The platform's right there. Thank you.
So again, there's kind of two of them kind of related to the same question here, so I'm going to kind of combine them into one. It is, do you support the, in quotation marks, new Minnesota flag, and what do you say to the residents that want the old flag back?
I proudly display the flag at my campaign events, the old flag. The new flag is a farce. The governor and lieutenant governor put together a panel of like 4 or 5 people to design and create a new flag without input from the community. You'll drive around Wright County and you're going to see the old Minnesota flag everywhere. You'll see it on my flagpole at my house. The reason is because it stands for something. That is the flag that was carried in the Civil War. That is the flag that has been with our state ever since. It means something. There is value to it. And if we're going to change our flag, we need to have input from the actual people of Minnesota, not just a small slate of hand-picked friends of the governor who decide that they get to change what the most basic symbol of our statehood is. I think that was clear.
Well, unfortunately, it'll probably sound pretty similar. So when we are changing things and changing things that are historical, we need to have a conversation about it, and the community also needs to be part of that conversation. we obviously, when we're only bringing a few people in, they're not getting the input from general directions, and most likely, I bet there wasn't a Republican on that committee. So we need to have our beliefs and our system in there, but for the flag itself, yeah, I do believe we should go back to the old one, and that could probably be changed because it's not constitutional in here, so it won't be that hard of a change if we need to, as long as we can get the votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just going to kind of read the printing here. Should parents have ultimate say over their children's education, including the right to remove DEI, gender identity, and CRT content from public school curriculum?
Sorry, a clarification, are we saying they can just remove themselves from the class, or the parents are going to remove it from there?
It says, I think, should parents have ultimate say over their children's education?
Okay, so I'm going to assume that we're saying we can pull them out of class then. Okay, so yeah, they should. I mean, it's the parents' choice. The parents know what their beliefs are and what their kids should be going through. They should have a right to speak about that at school boards and displace their discomfort. And if it's not something the school boards can change or that the school is willing to do, they should be able to remove them from that class or for at least that block in teaching. And that's also why I believe in that we should be able to choose the schools we go to, so because some schools and school districts believe in different things and have different priorities. And so if you're not aligned with that school, you can go that. And that includes pulling your kids going into charter schools, that goes to public schools, or even homeschooling.
I think that it's not about pulling your kids out of school. I think that parents should have a say over what's taught in the individual schools. This country used to know how to do education. It wasn't top down. We didn't listen to the federal government. We didn't listen to the state government. We ran schools from our communities. That's the way it should be done. The people of Wright County know what values they want their kids to learn in school. And if the public schools aren't going to do it, then we need to give parents other options. Right now, I don't send my kids to public school. It's not worth it. I'd rather live in a smaller house, drive worse cars, than have my kids be subjected to Minnesota State standards. I send them to public school, to private school. There should be an option for parents who are not as fortunate as my family to send their kids to private school and have not a voucher program, a tax incentive or a tax rebate. Public schools should lose funding. We should put them in competition with private schools and homeschooling because at the end of the day, parents need to know that their children are not going to be targeted and indoctrinated in school. That's just the basic of it. And plus, in Minnesota, your schools don't even protect your daughters in private spaces. The school system is way off base in Minnesota. It needs a reality check. It gets enough funding. It needs to be reformed drastically. And there's more than just what the state government can do for that. I'm not saying that I'm going to be elected as your senator and change the world on that, but I am certainly going to push the pendulum in the right direction. Thank you.
Second one, again, I'm going to combine kind of two related questions here together related to the Second Amendment and gun control. First part is, do you support constitutional carry? And the second part is, do you think all guns should have serial numbers, even homemade guns?
Shall not be infringed. If I want to go make a gun in my garage, I should be able to do that. The Constitution's clear on it, and in Minnesota, we just had, I met the woman when I was door knocking in Monticello. I met the grandmother of the poorest 20-year-old kid in Sherburne County who was just victimized to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars and 2 years of his life ruined because the district attorney or the county attorney decided to attack him because he had the audacity to try to make a gun in his garage, which you're totally allowed to do. They sell lowers that you can drill out. Anybody who's involved in 2A has known somebody that's done it. There's nothing wrong with it. The case was finally dropped because it was unconstitutional to attack the kid over it, but his life was ruined over it. All he did was create his own gun because he didn't want to pay $1,200 to go buy one. In America, we have these inalienable rights. The right to bear arms is how we defend the rest of the rights. It's just that simple. Again, shall not be infringed under any circumstances. As far as constitutional carry goes, yeah, I conceal carry. I don't know why we have to put so many limits on it. Doesn't make any sense. Again, we are a free people. We should be allowed to do, from our state government, we should be allowed to do what the Constitution guarantees that we can do anyway. And it's time that we recognize that and respect that in state law. Thank you.
So yes, I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. It is a constitutional right, so I completely agree with that. And yes, you should be able to make your own weapons, and we should have you should be able to carry a constitutional carry. With that, there is a law that I would like to change. It's called the Reasonably Retreat Law that has been in place that endangers our family. The reason that endangers our family, if someone comes in and breaks into my home, they expect me to retreat into the farthest room and hope and pray that I can't defend my family, or that they don't come in, that's when I can defend my family. What I learned in the military is it's called defense in depth, and what that means is, like, if an intruder comes into my home, I should be able to engage them at the earliest point. And so if there's too many of them, I can retreat accordingly into the last part, and then hopefully by then the cops come. But I need to make that time, and sitting in the back room praying that they don't come into that back room is not acceptable to me.
As a candidate for the Senate, how will you approach affordable housing within the district and the state?
Yep. So right now, unfortunately, entire Minnesota is about 114,000 affordable homes short, and how I'm going to define affordable home is $200,000. And the reason why we're defining it at that marker is the people in District 29, their average, when they're renting, their average median pay is about $49,000. And unfortunately, our average house in Wright County costs about $300,000. So they can't afford that, because they can afford about $150,000 to $230,000 home. So we want those people to get homes. It's part of the American dream. It is something we've been brought up to believe that we should be able to go do. And so one of the ways we're going to do that is we're going to talk with that economic growth people. We're going to bring in local leaders. We're going to bring in the unions. We're going to bring in the construction, the contractors, to be able to sit down and have a conversation and ask, why can't we build these homes, these just basic $200,000 homes? Because I see plenty of $400,000 ones all the time. You can go to St. Michael. I know it's outside the district, but I drive by that one all the time, and you'll see $400,000 homes up for sale. The reality is there are plenty of people that can't afford it, and we need to get them into homes, but we don't need a big government to come play along with it. We need to get local solutions to help that.
I approach this from a different angle. I'm a property manager. I own rental properties within the county, and I can tell you, I evicted my first tenant last year. If you go online, you can see the proceedings through Minnesota court history. It cost me over $10,000 to evict that tenant. On their way out, they did $10,000 worth of damage to my unit. It's still to this day not rentable. And what I learned is that Minnesota is an incredibly hostile state to do business in. The inability for me as a landlord, I can't go file an eviction. I have to hire an attorney in the state of Minnesota to evict a bad tenant. And when that tenant destroys my property and I call the police, they say, well, this is a civil matter. Go sue them for all of their nothing. So there is no option for landlords to, what's my incentive to go build a building? There isn't one, and I'm not going to. We were actually considering building another building, and we pulled out of it because we're not interested in being in this business anymore. That is not how we solve problems. As far as getting $340,000 houses down to $200,000, I mean, that's just, there's a lot more on the local level that needs to be done. There's not a state issue. There's not, from the Senate, you can't solve that problem. It has to be done through your local zoning, your city boards, your county boards, to allow for lot sizes that are a lot smaller and buildings that are a lot smaller, and somehow you have to incentivize builders to take a huge cut to their profit margins to do all of that. Now, it's possible, and there could be some state work to be done. One of the biggest things is the building codes from the state, especially around insulation and whatnot, really do make it hard for builders to meet those numbers. So there is some state regulation that can be peeled back. It's a little bit more in depth than we have to talk about in the next 30 seconds, but there's definitely work that can be done, but most of it's on the city and local level, which is where I recommend somebody starts if this is actually their most important issue. Thank you.
Next one is in regards to immigration. Do you support repealing Minnesota's sanctuary policies on ending access to taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens?
Yeah. So, of course, I mean, that's a ridiculous program. Tim Walz got brought before Congress, had to spend $340,000 or $430,000 of taxpayer money to prepare himself to fall on his face and have no defense for wasting Minnesota taxpayer dollars on this. Just most recently, when we looked at Medicare cutbacks and Medicaid for illegal aliens in Minnesota, we had to take and surrender $500 million, $500 million in federal in federal funds to allow, because they won't match like they do for Minnesotans and for citizens. So we just throw that money out the window, and there's no matching funds from the federal government to help us. That's one issue. There are so many government programs that we're funding for illegal aliens, including IDs, which makes no sense. It opens them up to receive a ton more benefits, and there's no reason to do it. And it puts Minnesotans at danger. We are consistently seeing illegal aliens that are harming Minnesotans on the roads and in crime, and it's ridiculous. It needs to end today. And again, when I'm elected as your senator, it is going to be taken very seriously. Thank you.
Can I get the second part of that question real quick? Sorry.
Let's see here. Do you support repealing Minnesota's sanctuary policies and ending access to taxpayer-friendly benefits for illegal aliens?
Yes, absolutely. So our resources are limited, and they should be going to serve citizens first and the people that are lawfully present residents. So removing the Minnesota Care for undocumented immigrants does restore faith and brings those things restores faith in the community and our government, and also brings our taxpayer money in line with what our expectations are. So we do need to prioritize certain things. We need to prioritize our emergency rooms, our health care for vulnerable adults, and we can't do those type of things and for veterans and for and other children. We can't do those things if we're spending all our money on funding illegal immigrants.
This one is in regards to education. And it's maybe a little beyond because it's a federal policy, but it says, what do you intend to do in regards to the READ Act and No Child Left Behind?
So, like you said, it's a federal policy, and we are mandated to do these things. So there's not a lot we can do, but we can encourage our local areas, and I'm guessing they want to defund some of these things. The reality is we can't. We have to fund these things because the federal government is charging it, just like we have to fund any other mandates. So what are we going to do? We need to talk to our local or our U.S. government and find solutions, but for local solutions, it's going to be a little bit harder.
We consistently hear from our elected officials that, especially in the state level, that when it comes to boys playing and girls sports, the federal government has no control over our schools. So as far as I'm concerned, their policies of No Child Left Behind and READ Act, that we're allowed to ignore things apparently without any repercussions. So let's use that same politics on our side. These policies are known to fail, they're known to be a waste of money, and the federal government doesn't actually take away our funding when we don't do what they tell us to do. So it's Donald Trump's intention to end the Department of Education anyway and end all that funding, send it straight back to the school. I hope he does. The schools could use it and probably use it a lot better than the federal government tells us to. So we need to take education back to our individual communities. The state needs to get out of the way. And as far as enforcing, and if you, I guarantee if you did tomorrow, the Attorney General of Minnesota would be up the school district's rear end. But we need to, as individual school districts, grow some courage and take care of the students in our buildings. That's what we need to do, and we need to incentivize and support the courageous school board members who actually do that. And we need to turn our back to the ones who are failing their communities. So as far as those policies, they're several of many that need to be looked at and taken on a case-by-case basis in individual schools. And I'll do everything I can to empower the individual school boards of Wright County to do their jobs and get out of their way so that they can take care of the students how they know how to best. Thank you.
This one is a bit of a two-part question. When is it okay to have an abortion, and what rights do women have over their pregnancy?
I don't think anybody in this room is going to be surprised by my answer. Life is the most important and most fundamental right in this society. So when is abortion okay? this isn't a discussion. When is murdering okay? That's what's being asked. It is not okay. Now in Minnesota, this issue is not legislated by the legislature. It is in '94. The Minnesota Supreme Court decided that they were going to unilaterally say that abortion is not only legal but funded in Minnesota. So the issue in Minnesota isn't going to be when are we going to make abortion illegal. It's going to be when are we going to support women in a way that makes them decide that it's worth it to keep their child. 99% of abortions that we hear about, the women say that they're in some form of a distress. And I believe them. We need to be there for them through crisis pregnancy centers like Options for Women's Clinic in St. Michael. Wonderful program. Please donate to them if you're watching this or doing this. They do the Lord's work. They save babies every day. We need to support pregnancy resource centers. We need to support the people in our community who are coming together to help these women and help them make the right choices. That's what this comes down to. So on a state level, we need to let these people know that they're cared about, they're loved, and that their children will be important members of our society, and that we want them, and that we're here to help them, both as a party, as a state, and as individuals. I think there was a second part, but again, there's the child is an independent being with its own DNA, own heartbeat. It is an important member of our society from the moment of conception, and we need to protect it. Again, not through making it illegal to kill it, but rather by supporting the mother. Again, in Minnesota, there's no way to repeal that without the Supreme Court. So, thank you.
So I am pro-life, but the reality is it is a constitutional right in Minnesota. So there are ways we can combat this. We can have the pregnancy centers. I do believe thoroughly in that, and we should put resources into that. We should have discussions inside school. We should talk to these young people about what it means to have a baby. But for when we should have it, the reality is if it's medically necessary for a woman to survive. That is a hard decision that they can make, and that is a decision they need to make if they're willing to risk their body or they're going to survive. And I'm not going to go make that for them because that's a personal choice on that level. And so, yes, it is a Supreme Court that can overturn, not a Supreme Court, or super majority, but we can have our battle in other areas. So in Minnesota right now, you can have an abortion up until the last minute, and that I don't believe that is on a constitutional right. I think that was just voted on recently. So we can fight that battle and have late-term abortions stopped. But for outside of that, it is a constitutional right in Minnesota currently, and unless we can get that changed, there's not a lot we can do. But I am pro-life, and I do believe that all life is valuable.
Recently, the National Guard was deployed in Washington, D.C. For police protection. Would you approve this type of enforcement in Minnesota?
I guess if it was needed, that we needed to bring on the National Guard, yeah, absolutely. It got brought on during the George Floyd riots. So there are times it is needed. It should be as one of the last resorts because it does erode public trust and it does bring fear to other parts of the community that we're wondering if what the government is doing when they're mobilizing military force to come in and try to police an area. The military is not designed to police. It is designed to fight wars. And so there are some concerns that there. When Katrina hit, we had right before I got that unit down there, my unit was the first unit down there. I was not there yet, and they actually beat the 82nd Airborne. They just got all the credit, and they were some of the first boots on the ground, and they were in charge of policing it. When the 82nd came in, they would just randomly go around, handcuff people because they were having mental health issues. So there are some real concerns when the military jumps in and starts policing communities. It should be as a last resort and in extreme necessities. And it does sound like it is extreme necessary in DC currently, but we need to make sure we take great care. But yes, if we need to mobilize, we will.
We all felt the fear. I remember the George Floyd riots very clearly. Everyone was wondering when it was going to come up here. It took 4 days for our governor to respond to that and bring in the National Guard. He was asked on the first night. The 911 let everyone know, quit calling, we're not coming. That's scary. That's what erodes public trust. the National Guard has a place in policing. Not every day, but it definitely had its place there earlier than it did. As far as DC goes, it's a federal district. He has the absolute right to use them. He should and did. That's up to the president and his power. In Minnesota, there's definitely time for it to be done. Crisis intervention is very important. I have a lot of faith in our National Guard. They came down and acted wonderfully professionally in the George Floyd riots. They immediately solved the problem. I don't think we have to worry about them coming down and issuing martial law and putting people in handcuffs and shoving people against walls. I think that the National Guard is very professional here in Minnesota and can absolutely be trusted when called upon to stand up and do their duty and act with absolute professionalism. Thank you.
All right. Last question that we have here. Why did you or didn't you seek the endorsement of the Republican Party of
Yeah, the endorsement is, let me explain how the endorsement process works. Not everybody in this room is delegates. 166 delegates in this particular district. Allotment for a lot more, but that's how many showed up. That's 166 of the most conservative, dedicated men and women in our community that care about the Republican Party, the platform, and the values that we stand for. They're not friends of mine. They're not friends of any one individual. They are members of our community who took the time, energy, and spent the money to be part of the process. They showed up not knowing all the candidates. I didn't know most of them when I went and knocked on their doors. They come together to make that endorsement because it matters, because they want to vet the candidates and they want to show that this is who we know stands for the Republican values that we believe in and the conservative values. That endorsement was not an option. We had 4 great candidates enter that endorsement. All of them they were all friends of Bruce's, they were all friends of mine. They would all have done this job well. At the end of the day, we won the endorsement. We did the work, talked to the delegates, they believed us, and that speaks a lot. It means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to the average Wright County resident, because again, these are the most dedicated conservatives in our community, and they came together and chose the candidate that they felt best represented their values and the values that Bruce fought for every single day of the last 30 years. Thank you.
Well, we're going to go into why it took me so long. Is that I'm a business owner, but first I needed to talk with my family. Like, that is a real discussion because this is a big ordeal and it takes a lot of time and effort. And so first I had a conversation with my family to get their blessing, and I believe that's incredibly important. And after that, I needed to look at my business to make sure I could step away because I'm not fairly hands-on, I'm very hands-on with it. And so we had to come up with a plan and a game plan that I could be able to do that. And the reality, yeah, there were 3 great candidates out there. And unfortunately, none of them got endorsed. And so that is a problem. And one of the other things, the reality is the primary is where we choose the candidate. The people get to choose the candidate, not 116 individuals that the rest of the population didn't get to choose. They didn't choose those delegates. The GOP chose them.
You can in your concluding remarks if you'd like. So we're going to conclude.
It's just a lie, but sure.
So at this point, each candidate can make concluding remarks up to 2 minutes. Michael, you have the opening one, so Bradley, you are first for concluding remarks, and Michael, you will be second.
Well,
Your final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank you guys for your time and for staying and listening. I had believed in service and community and service my entire life. I joined the military and I served there. I became a drug and alcohol counselor, served there, or not a counselor, that's a bigger title than I had, a technician, and we worked directly with Maple Lake Recovery with children who had alcohol and drug or addiction and behavioral issues. And then eventually I got into some more social services. So I've always consistently fought for this country, I believe in this country, and I've continued to serve selflessly for this country. And I do want to continue to serve the community. And part of that community is everyone in this community, not just the Democrats, not just the Republicans, but everyone as a whole, because we are people and people first. And so that is where I stand on that. And my policies, you can go check them out, but we are going to do economic freedom. We need to get innovation and economic growth back into Wright County. We need to focus on healthcare. While that is mostly a federal problem, we can do some things on the state and local level. We need to bring affordable housing to the working families, not just to people who can afford a $300,000 home, and we would just want to continue to serve and protect the people. Thank you.
The delegates are chosen by the people in Wright County. They are voted on by their neighbors. They are not chosen by this GOP that there's apparently disdain for. The Republican Party delegates are chosen by the people. Wright County is a legendary stronghold for conservative values. It has been that way ever since Bruce Anderson and Mary Kiffmeyer put in the legwork to turn this district red in the early 90s. Our next senator needs to be someone that we know will lead in St. Paul with the courage of their conservative principles. I have been deeply involved in the Republican Party of Wright County for over a decade, and now I'm running in a primary against two people that I have never met. The Republican endorsement is not insider baseball. It's a vetting process. Anyone can put their name on the Republican ballot, but the endorsement is how you know that they actually hold conservative values. As I have mentioned before, our next senator will have a tremendous shoes to fill. This race is not for a promotion or ladder climbing. This race is about sacrifice and service to the people of Wright County. Expect to see me at your doors in the coming weeks and months. I want to meet you. I want to meet your families. I want to learn about your values. Wright County is a place of greatness, and we have the opportunity to share that with the entire state. But we need to elect a senator who understands the values that go into making Wright County great. I humbly ask for your vote on the 26th, and I look forward to meeting you all out in the field. Thank you.
We want to again thank the candidates for participating this evening, and all of you that were in attendance, as well as everybody that was watching or listening at home. We also want to thank the City of Delano and staff for hosting us here at City Hall. The primary election will take place on Tuesday, August 26th, and the Delano Area Chamber of Commerce will host another candidate forum on Thursday, October 23rd, with the two candidates that will be on the ballot for the special election for State Senate District 22. Please mark your calendars and join us that evening. Thank you, and have a great night.